All right, episode 30. Let's go.
Yeah.
So today I'm here with Sam and her teenage son Xavier to discuss a younger person's perspective on addiction when they have a parent with substance use. So Sam, welcome back. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm good. How about you?
I am good. Sunday. We're not often doing this on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird.
And
I feel like
Xavier,
I should have to do something after this.
right? And Xavier, it's cool that you wanted to come and you're open to have this conversation. How are you?
I'm good. I watched a few of the episodes before I came here.
Cool, man. That's awesome. How old are you now?
I'm 14. I just turned 14.
Yeah, and what's your freshman, sophomore?
I'm 8th grade.
You're 8th grade?
Yeah, I'll go
Oh, I thought
freshman
you
next
were a little bit older than that.
No, because his birthday's in December, so he hit the cutoff for that. You
Oh.
you have to have your birthday before
Mhm.
September to be able to, because otherwise he would have been a freshman this year. Yeah.
Right, right. So, I mean, what kind of things are you into right now? Video games, sports? Are you in extracurriculars at school?
I'm doing wrestling in school right
Yeah.
now.
Are you good at that? You?
I'm
Yeah,
alright.
he is. He's good.
Yeah?
I've won a few games this season.
A few. How many do you have a season?
I usually have like 3 a match, next 6 matches, so like 18, 20. So
Nice. That's actually quite a bit.
Yeah, he had one last Saturday in Menominee, and like it was an all day thing. There were schools from Minnesota, Illinois, everything, and he got
Mhm.
second place for his weight group. So
What's your weight group called?
with like it's not like it's just by weight. It's not. There's no names for it.
Oh, it's not like welterweight, lightweight, all that stuff.
It's because of all sizes.
yeah, because
Right.
his is like 143 to 154 or 148 to 154 or something like that.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
There's a kid, the heaviest kid on the team, on our team. He has his own weight class.
Nice.
304 to
He had to.
Who does he wrestle?
A freshman.
Yeah, he wrestled a
heavyweight.
freshman, and then he had 2 matches this last meet.
That's crazy. I think there was a kid from Whitehall that I think was like that too. He was a really big kid back when we were like right before I graduated. Just
Yeah.
so much bigger than everybody else.
All the kids that he wrestled were like 60 to 100 pounds lighter than him.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
did he win everything?
No, he
Really?
lost all 3.
What? He must not be good at all then.
No, he just started this year.
No skills.
He's
How long have you been doing it?
since last year. I
Oh,
started.
okay. So you have a year under your belt.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Are you going to continue into high school?
I think so. I was debating not doing it like when we ended last year because I didn't do very good that season, but I tried it again. It was alright.
Yeah.
He's getting a lot stronger, So,
Got to work out, yeah.
yeah.
Get tough and
He
so,
works
but
out.
that'll move you up in a weight class too, though, if you build muscle on too.
Yeah, but if you build muscle, if you lose fat and build muscle, and stay around the same weight, but
Yeah, you can, really work for the cutoff.
mhm.
So we are going to discuss your point of view of Sam's substance use and from when you were younger. I do want you to feel comfortable. So if I ask you anything that you're not okay with, just say move on and we'll go to the next thing. We don't have to get into anything that you don't want to. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, how old were you when you started to understand that Sam had a substance abuse issue?
Probably like when I was 8, when I first like went to live with cousins for like a year and a half or so.
Okay. And what was your relationship like with Sam at that time?
I mean, like we hung out. I mean, it was like more of like being friends than being.
So you had a really good view of Sam. She was more like
Yeah.
your friend. You didn't have any issues with her or worries at that time.
No.
At the time when Xavier was around in the beginning of this stuff, did you have any worries that anything was going to happen? Or were you just kind of like, nobody's going to take my kid no matter what happens?
Well, I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, throughout the addiction. But in the beginning, like when we first moved into, I guess it was basically like when we moved out of Augusta is when I started to use more. It was just like kind of how I was. I've always been loud and obnoxious and, so it wasn't, I mean, to me, it wasn't noticeable until a couple months in. And everybody was telling my mom, but my mom didn't want to believe it.
So
But,
how long before he said he noticed around 8? How long were you using before he noticed?
well, I'd say maybe 6 months because I didn't use for very long before they got taken. Like, so when Journey's dad and I started seeing each other, I was like just like dabbling once in a while, like
Mhm.
with my girlfriend because that's where I was getting my Adderall from, and it was easy for me to just stop doing it. You know,
Right.
I could do it one day and not do it again. You know, so but then once we moved out of Augusta, went back to my dad's house, I started to more because I was stressing, trying to figure out where we were going to go, how I was going to get money to move somewhere. And then when we moved, I just stopped for a while. I was still using Adderall, but I wasn't using methadol. And then when we moved to Strum, it was probably like a month or so into it when I started to use meth again. And I was only using for, let's see, it was August when I started using, and we moved out of there October 31st, and they were taken on November 9th. 3 months,
Mhm.
you know, and really I wasn't worried about it because I wasn't thinking that it was like as bad as it was. You know, I wasn't thinking that people were noticing and that like my neighbor was calling the cops on me and DHS on me and
That's
you know,
crazy.
yeah. Well, I mean, I got stupid idiots fucking digging for worms in my night crawlers in my yard at fucking 4 a.m.
Did you notice that kind of stuff going
Oh,
on?
never. Like when she tells me about this stuff, like I'd never remember it. Like occasionally I will.
Right. So you were pretty young. But so what made you start to notice? Were you noticing like a substance being put above your own needs? Like your needs weren't being met at a young age?
Not really. I mean, I just feel like thinking of the word right now.
It's okay. Take your time.
Was it like after you guys were taken that you realized it?
It was like a little bit before, cause you were in your room a lot.
So
Yeah,
you
Emma
were
would be-
noticing different behavior from her.
Emma would be smearing shit all over her walls. I
And-
swear, like literally every when I would want to smoke, I would just put her in her room and shut the door. Well, she was 1.5, 2 at that time. And then when I'd go smoke and then come back. I mean, and sometimes it was a little while.
Right.
Not gonna lie. But I'd go back in there, and Xavier's Pokemon cards would be all over everywhere, and there would be all the movies would be everywhere, and she'd be walking on them, and she'd have her mattress, her crib mattress, on the top of them, and then there's shit everywhere, smeared all over her kitchen, her wall, like her window, her TV.
And it was just because she was alone just too long.
Yep.
She didn't have the guidance and an adult watching her.
Hmm.
And you were probably too young to step in and actually do anything about it at that time.
He was always playing video games.
I mean, that's what you would expect an 8-year-old to do, though.
Yep.
You know? Did you ever have any times where you had to go and sit with her for a long period in the car and not understand why?
Not that I would remember.
I didn't really take them on drug runs. Like I wasn't the dude. I just dated the dude.
Right.
Right. So like I stayed back for a lot of those. Like after they were taken and I was just, I didn't have the responsibility of having them, I went on a few more drug runs, but I always had something on me,
Right.
but I wasn't really going and waiting for the, tweaker time to
Right.
show up.
So that's good, though. That's good you don't really have memories of that stuff, though. And you would have been too young to understand. That's why I was just
But
curious.
do you remember the ditch hopping to get the deer out from under the car?
Oh yeah, she'd hit a deer and it had gotten stuck. Like its rib cage, the frame had gotten like
Oh.
sliced into the deer. It was hanging. She was, like,
Yeah, that was the one I
running
talked
into-
about in the last episode.
Mm.
She was running into the ditch to try to get it off because she was so fucking.
Yeah, and do you
anxious.
remember how Gage got it off?
Yeah, and Gage got it off with a fucking mallet, wasn't it?
No, he backed the car up,
Oh yeah.
and it fell off.
They tried to do that though. They tried.
Oh
to hit
yeah,
it
they
off
tried
with a
all
hammer.
sorts of stuff.
That's crazy.
And that, there's my biggest memory from all of it is waking up. It was the day that Emma had gotten into my stuff. She was sitting there on the floor, and she had my purse. My purse was dumped out, and everything was just everywhere. And my container was tipped over, and it was like right next to her. And I'm like, and it's open. And I'm like, fuck. And then I look, and there's a note from Xavier. Mom, I got myself ready and went to school. I love you.
Do you remember that? You don't?
Mm-mm.
No? Oh my gosh,
How
that's
old
like
was he? How old are you?
he was 8,
Probably
7, 8.
8, 7, 8.
Oh, so that stuff really did start around 8 then that's when you really were noticing it too, because you actually had to do some things like that. You're just not quite remembering it right now though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like when I first started dabbling before Emma was born, I didn't have him. That was when my dad had him still, and he wasn't allowing me to see him and take him,
So
etc.
there was was there a time that your dad had him before the aunt and uncle then?
Yeah, my dad had him. No, not with my substance use, but my dad had him when from like a year to 6 from when Emma was born.
Okay, because I remember like coming over there. There's some pictures of us over there at your dad's house.
Yeah, so when Xavier was born and his dad and I split up and his dad sold my car while he was in jail and everything, I went and moved in with my dad. And my dad told me, "I know you're struggling. Just let me take custody of him and so you can get back on your feet." Well, then he started pulling the "I'm not going to let you see him" card, and
Yeah.
that's when I started pulling the "I'm going to drink and do drugs" then.
Yeah. So
And
then after you got him back is when you had more issues.
I got him back when he was 6. So I got him back right after Emma was born, and he just turned 6 when Emma was born.
Okay.
So I had him for 2 years then before they got taken. So it wasn't too long, but
So okay, came back at 6, and then at 8 he started noticing. See, I actually don't know exactly how all the timelines were, because I know I actually had forgotten about that time that he was with your dad.
yep, yep.
Did you ever have like any worries around that time though, when you noticed the stuff going on as Emma's doing this and you're leaving notes? Did you ever have fears and worries that something bad was going to happen, or you were maybe not going to get the care that you needed?
No, I mean, I didn't really understand why she was acting different.
Right.
You know,
So you just knew that you had to just keep living. You didn't really worry about it. Is that?
not really none of.
That's all right. That's okay. You were too young to understand.
Well, and that was the reasoning as to why my mom and I were moving to Menominee, was because I wanted to get sober. I literally begged my dealers to stop giving it to me, and then later on that day asked them for it, and they gave it to me.
Right.
But my mom had an inkling that something was going on. Obviously she noticed my behavior as well, and we were moving to Menominee, so that my plan was, I guess, and I'm sure it was my mom's plan in the back of her head, like that we were gonna move there so I could get clean.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved in, I got Xavier in school. That was one of the problems, was I was high, and I took him to school, and the teachers noticed that I was
Right.
high, and and you can try and act. The more normal you try to act, the more paranoid you look.
Mm-hmm. It does suck like that for sure.
So I was going to get my kids situated and then sleep it off and then have my mom help me to get better.
Right.
It all happened so damn quick. I wasn't going to open the door when they came to the door, but my mom made me.
It's probably better,
Yeah. And now it took me a couple years, but now I actually thank CPS for taking them,
Of
because
course.
I might still be using if they didn't.
Mm.
I thought you're an untouchable when you're using, so you don't think any of this shit's gonna happen, and your friends are like, "Oh, here's the laws, so you don't have to open the door."
Yeah.
You don't even have to roll your window down when the cop pulls up.
Unfortunately, though, a lot of those here's the laws stuff is miseducation about the laws. It's not even what it really is.
Right.
We have to be careful listening to stuff like that too. We get ourselves in more trouble trusting just whatever Joe Schmo says over here, and he's
Right.
wrong.
Right. Right. He thinks he's right because he's high as fuck. But
Mhm. So what was it like for you then when it was decided that he was gonna have to go with your aunt and uncle then?
I literally went psycho. Like, I threatened to slaughter my mom like a pig on the phone with the social worker, unknowingly.
So that's actually because we've talked about that. So that's where that stems from, is actually the 8-year-old and
Yep.
going with your aunt and uncle.
Yep.
Okay.
And rage. I literally can still feel it thinking about it. Like, it was insane. I've never felt so, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Like,
Just like the
anger
seeing
and
red
rage is
type
like
of
not
anger
even a
where,
word. Yeah,
yeah.
like, and guess what I wanted to do? I wanted to go kidnap my kids and blow everybody up,
Mm-hmm.
or go get high.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't want to. Everybody's like, you should just kidnap your kids and run away to Mexico or whatever. But then I'm running for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want my kids to live like that ever.
And right, then they would have to be that same thing. They would be running. When your
Yep.
kids would go places, you'd have to have fear every time you let them go anywhere. That if someone notices them, they're going to get taken again. And this time it'll be a lot worse.
Yep, and I'm going to prison for kidnapping my kids and killing people. And
Right, you were still in a situation where you're able to work all this stuff out. You're not in that deep where you can't have everything normal.
yeah, yep, and it was. I mean, it was really hard to get through my head, but somehow in that moment I knew like that I just had to. I had to figure it out. Like, that wasn't the way. That was not the
Right.
answer. And actually, when they first went with my aunt and uncle, they were with them for 2 or 3 weeks, and my aunt ended up having some health issues. But another reason why they ended up going with my cousin was because I threatened to kidnap my children and blow my aunt and uncle's house up with them in it. So
So you were just really
yeah,
unleashing
they
anger.
took everything. They took my
Right.
life away from me. You know,
Right.
like my reason to live.
I get
Little
it.
best friends.
Yeah, I told him on the way here, my little best friend.
Right? For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
They're your kids, you
Yep.
know?
And it was just us, us three for so long, and even like when I was with John, he went to jail. So, for those 3 months that he was in jail, all I had was my kids,
Right.
So
Right, and you do have 2 other kids. I just want to say that, but today we are focusing on Xavier's perspective.
yes. My aunt told the social worker that she didn't feel safe with having the kids at her house, so that's when they ended up going with my cousin, and that relationship was really hard because we did not co-parent together at all. Her husband does not like me at
Yeah.
all, and never has. And I wasn't allowed to like have her on Facebook, message her on Facebook. I was not allowed to have her cell phone number or text her cell phone. I was only allowed to have the house phone number, and
That makes it hard to communicate.
that phone could, for some reason, that phone could not dial my phone number. So my son could never call me if he wanted to call me.
You weren't allowed to? That's not good.
No, and I only seen them 2 times a week.
For 2 hours.
For 2-3 hours, yeah, and then they would, they expect you to, we're gonna time out this visit
Right.
minute per minute,
Yep.
and we're gonna do this, and this, and we're gonna do all these activities, and we're gonna do some learning, and you better make sure you discipline them. Well, I'm only getting 6 hours a week with my kids. I ain't disciplining them.
Right, and that's actually something, I don't want you to say any names or anything, but do you ever have family members talk down to you about Sam's choices?
That's happened a few times. Like on the way back from football practice to the house, my uncle, like, he would say something stupid shit.
How does that make you feel?
Like shit.
Right.
Exactly how you think it would make somebody feel like. And the worst part about it is that's my blood. That's my blood
Right.
family that's saying these things
Well,
about
that's
me.
what I wanted to ask you next is how does that feel when they're putting you down, your choices down to him, and he's, it's not okay to do that. You
No.
are his mother.
When I spoke to his wife about it, the excuse was that it was the youngest dad that he was talking about, not
Well, of course.
me. And it pisses me off. If you have a problem with me, then that's fine. Talk all the shit you want, but not to my kid.
Mm-hmm.
My kids, not around them, not nothing. Like, Xavier is a lot like me, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but I am very sensitive. Like, if I get yelled at, I start bawling. If I get mad, I start bawling. Like, I cry over the stupidest shit. Super, super sensitive.
It's all good.
And my kid got that
the
too.
person I'm with does too all the time, so I totally understand.
Yep. I've gotten better over the years, but that shit hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And like if if something's said in front of somebody else that doesn't know the situation, then they start questioning. Like when we were at his wrestling match on Saturday, I said something about going home to get ready for the Sweet 16 party, and I told his friend that I lived in Menominee, and he said, "Oh, how do you go to North Star then?" And Xavier's like, "Well, I don't live with my mom." So, like, other kids, if he's not telling his friends those things, and then you're going to say something bad about me or, or anything in front of them or, whatever,
Right. That was
then that
actually
is embarrassing to him, too.
right. I was gonna ask too. Do you get any sort of like ridicule or things like that outside of the house too, outside of your family, like with the close friends or anybody like that?
I wouldn't say often. No, I don't think.
But you have had it happen in the past,
Happened like at the house or driving.
right? And do you? What do you want to do in those situations? Is it something where you want to like lash out back or you want to just run away or like what is it like for you when that happens?
I mean, it's just hard trying to stay calm.
Right?
Yeah, he got my sensitivity and my anger, unfortunately.
And I get it cuz I'm protective of my mom big time too. So I really understand,
Boys usually are. I mean,
right?
I noticed it when he was a kid all the time. Like, we only got so much time together when my dad would let me see him, and
Mhm.
he would just be like all about mom. Like it was my little shadow, and he would brush my hair when I got out of the shower.
Nice.
Yeah, he was just always wanted to be with me. I have a picture of him literally grabbing my face and kissing me. It's cute.
That's awesome. Um that's really good, but do you have any specific stories or anything that you remember? I do know Sam actually mentioned to me one time that you had made a comment like nice parenting mom. Was that like, do you have anything like that sticks out to you where you were worried or had issues with stuff because of substance abuse or anything?
That was more recently. It wasn't recently actually. It was probably like 2 years ago.
I
But
wasn't being serious when I said that.
but it's even he still sometimes does too.
Oh, so you
Try
were
to
just
like
joking when you said that? Okay.
well, he probably wasn't all joking because
But
he but
today
he
he
tries to
was.
parent. He tries to parent. Like
Yeah.
but that's something that I would expect because he's been the one that's been 100% consistent with Emma. I actually just told her the other day when we were running back to get his charger from the house, like, your brother tells you that he hates you and whatever, but he's the one that's been 100% consistent with you your
Right.
whole life. And because this is what it was. She had said, "I love my brother so much," and I was like, "Me too." And she was like, "Even more." Never mind. And I was like, "Even more than mom?" And she was like, yeah. And I was like, "Don't even be worried. Don't even be sad. Don't, like, I expect you to love him more
Right.
because he has been that person for you that's been there 100% of the time when I couldn't be."
Mhm.
And I feel like that's why he tries to step in and parent,
Right.
And he also knows that they can be stressful to me, you know. It's
Mhm.
getting a lot better, but before it could be bad. So,
Do you go to counseling or have you ever gone to counseling?
I think like the first year or so of me living with aunt and uncle,
Right.
um, I was going to counseling. Yeah,
And was that good for you? Did you get benefits from that? Like, did it help you work out? Or are you just too young to really?
yeah. I didn't really help anything. I mean,
they were just basically trying to pull information.
Yeah, just trying to get what they can and
Hmm.
not really counsel.
Pretty much. I mean, that place and my cousins, were the start of all the issues with the youngest dad.
Right.
So clearly they were trying to.
Manipulate answers.
Yep, exactly. And that's unfortunately how the state works, how the government works. Like, that's how they are. They say that they're out for the best interest of the child, but
Oh, I know. The things I've seen, I don't, I don't want to get into that right now.
yeah,
It's not cool.
I agree.
Do you feel like things are gonna be different moving forward now?
I think so. I mean, I think it's just like a lot of believing in her.
Right.
Because when you don't give her that, then that's just even harder to do.
Right. That's awesome.
Right? The judge actually said that in court when I went the first time I went, when I'm trying to get them full time. The guardian ad litem and my aunt were both like, "Oh, she was late to get Xavier to school by 3 minutes," and the judge was like, "Hold up, just because she was late by
Right.
3 minutes one time does not mean that she's going to be late every single time. Like, you have to have a little faith that
For sure.
she can do it." And
So, what would you say your relationship is like with your mom now?
I think it's becoming like more and more of like a parent-child relationship.
So, in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but when you were 8 and she was using, you were more friends. But now that she's getting sober and wanting to be the parent, now you're seeing her more as a parent too. That's really interesting.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot better recently than she has like the past few years.
That's awesome. And you guys both have the lines of communication open, right? I feel like you have both been sharing things and you're
yeah,
doing really well there.
I try to get him to talk to me about things like that because, like I said before we got started, that kind of stuff helps me. Like, once in a while, I really hate to do it, but once in a while I will. I'll go back in my photos and, like, look at the kids
Mm-hmm.
and see, like, my kids were never dirty kids. My kids were always had nice clothes on, looked good, and you can tell when I was using that I just didn't give two shits. Xavier made a comment to me once about when we lived in one of the houses that he only showered 3 times there,
How long were you there?
like 4 or 5 months.
So there was a period of neglectfulness in there,
Mhm.
and as right.
Yep.
So with that, can you share anything positive that you feel that came out of all, like with the substance use and you moving and the way things are now? Like, what are the positives that you feel?
I would definitely say like experience. Like sometimes like you'll look at like a person with envy and you'll think like, if I was that person, I wouldn't be the same who I am today.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And he's very, very mature for his age. He always, I mean, not always, I guess, but ever since he was about 8, 9 years old, he's been really mature for his age. And, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I was more of a friend to him. So he was, I was open with him about things that were going on in life. And even I know I still try to do that, but more in a parental role now, more than just like a friend. But I tell him all the time, like, I don't tell you things because I'm trying to hurt you or piss you off or be that shitty mom, but like, I'm telling you these things because I've experienced them and I know the outcome of them, and I want you to know that this is the outcome of, this is the reaction for your actions. So, give them a warning.
Well, right. And has this made you feel a certain way about like harder substances?
I don't.
You've seen up close what it can do.
I don't wanna start doing it.
One other thing though, do you feel like you have an advantage over other kids because of what you've seen at such a young age?
I would say so, kinda, yeah.
Where other kids are going to look at it and maybe want to experiment with certain things, when you look at it, you're like, well, I've seen what can happen to my family and me even,
Right.
and I'm not going to go down this path.
I'm gonna try my best to not get into that.
Well, if you stay in wrestling and you continue to do, positive things with yourself, you shouldn't have to worry about it. Don't surround yourself with anything negative.
Yeah, my mom had it was like just a video or whatever. It was this dude, he was talking about how who you surround yourself with, you'll become.
Right,
Yep.
for sure. That's very true.
Yeah, we were just watching it on the way here, actually. Yeah, it said if you hang out with four crackheads, what are you gonna be? The
Mm-hmm.
fifth crackhead. If you
Right.
hang out with four successful people, what are you gonna be? The fifth
And
successful
I mean,
person.
I speak from experience with that. The people I've surrounded myself
Oh
with
yeah, me
have
too.
had big impacts on things that have happened in my life.
Yes.
So when you are so lucky. You are at such a great age. You still have so much you can do if you
Mhm.
just surround yourself with positive things and
And I feel like he has an advantage even over like us
for
because like,
sure.
he's going into his teen and adult years with all of the knowledge that, you know, I try to give him as much knowledge. Obviously, there's some things that I don't teach him.
Right.
But the things that I know that will affect him or and his future and whatever, I want to tell him my stories and explain how it happened and why it happened and get him to see it like I see it now because
Mm-hmm.
it makes so many situations easier to cope with and whatever if you know these things and you understand why they work the way they work and
And it can be part of genetics too. So it is really important that you do take it seriously. And
yeah.
even a little dabbling could put you on that path really easily.
The first time I did heroin, I was addicted. The first time I snorted a line of heroin, the next day I was begging John to come back with more.
So for
So,
me, my father was an alcoholic, but he also was addicted to opioids. But nobody told me he was addicted to opioids until after I had an issue with it. All I ever knew was that he was an alcoholic. So I feel like I was always careful with alcohol, but I didn't feel like I had that in me. So I wasn't when I should have been careful with other things.
yeah.
That genetic stuff is really, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It can make a big difference in your life.
Yeah, well, everybody has addictions, right? So we're all born with an addiction of
Right.
some sort.
Yeah.
We're born with addictions. What we surround ourselves with is what our addictions become, right? So then when you have that addictive drug or alcohol addictive personality in the family, that just that's running through the bloodline and makes that person more vulnerable to it as well.
Right.
Like my grandma and her grandma Linda and grandpa Tom were alcoholics. Now uncle drinks and I'm an addict. So, and grandma Jen is an addict too to cigarettes and she was struggled with drinking and stuff too.
Right. There's a lot of things to actually be addicted to, even.
And you
Just,
don't know a lot about your dad's family, so I know your grandpa was a big drinker, so
right.
I
Oh.
never even really thought about of it like that until now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's actually, we've been talking about it in class over the last week, the genetic stuff, so it's really is just on my mind right at the
right.
forefront. So then to discuss it here, but do you have any advice you want to give to other teenagers or kids that might be in the situations that you were in?
I would just say like have a positive outlook on life and the situation you're in.
Right?
I always try to at least think of one positive, no matter how negative the situation may be. There is something positive about that situation. Literally everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And literally you can manifest an incredible life.
Right.
You just have to put your mind to it and put your all into it. Get yourself motivated as a young adult to do other things. Find your thing that you like.
Mm-hmm. That's why when we got sat down, I asked what he was into and stuff. Because at your age, you have so much opportunity to
And
do
my
great
dad
things.
my dad has a stump grinding business, right? So
Mhm.
he just started a dumpster rental service, and he's going to be starting a seal coat
Right.
service. And he wants Xavier to take over the stump grinding when he turns 16.
Yeah.
And, that'll get him started. Plus, he bought a cutlass when I was a kid. It was supposed to be for me, but it doesn't. It's my gutless cutlass, I call it, and
Right.
so I think my dad plans on working on that with him too, and
Mhm.
get your kids into stuff like that.
So, is there any advice that you have, Sam, for parents struggling with substance abuse and they have their kids and they're looking at maybe having to lose them, or, because you've really struggled with the anger and you know
Mhm.
what that anger is.
Yep. Yep. If you don't want to be a parent, then let it happen and let your kids go somewhere healthy. If you do want to be a parent, get help. Like even just reaching out to somebody who has gone through it. Like peer support was so huge for me
Right.
in my recovery. Like I needed to have somebody like that had been through my situation and had a positive outcome. I mean, she had her baby taken from her at the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's
Yeah.
scary.
For sure.
So, and her story helped me so much. Like there is other stories that are worse than mine, and this could be something that could happen. You always think it isn't going to happen to you, and then it does.
Right.
So,
And I think, some of us, we are lucky because our stories aren't what they could be, honestly. We have found a grip before things got too out of control
right.
and realize what needs to happen if you actually want to have anything.
Yep.
Xavier, is there anything else you want to add today?
I don't think so.
No?
I think that's pretty much.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're you have a positive outlook on things. You seem to really have a grip, and your guys' relationship seems to be doing really well, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to add today, Sam?
Nope, I don't think so. I
No?
love you, kid.
Love you too.
So being a child in a substance abuse household is a great challenge, but you just have to, like he said, have that positive outlook, and you'll get through it and find ways to do better and overcome that and be the family that you want to be.
Yep.
Because I feel like a lot of people do actually want to have their family together. It's just
Right.
really hard for some people to actually get it right.
Yeah, and like the kids, if you really want your parents to do well, have that faith in them, because like
Right.
when my kids were with my cousin, she said that she had faith in me, and I do believe that, but I don't believe that her entire family was committed to being faithful or having faith in me.
Mm.
And it showed, because we did not co-parent well or anything. My aunt now does, and we get along great, and it shows in the kids.
Right. Well, and that's awesome that he said just have faith in your mom, and that's what she needs.
Yeah,
It's really
the parents see that and feel that, and when
that's something that a lot of kids wouldn't understand. So I mean,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yep.
So I do want to thank you guys both for being here. I know this wasn't an easy conversation to have, but I think it was one that was good to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you, Xavier, for being here. Sam, thanks.
No problem.
And thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, stay safe, and make good choices for yourself and those around you.